All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another video where I get to go, I was right! Mostly. For those of you that are here to yell at me and say, no, you won't, blah, 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 just shut up. At this point, I really don't care. For anyone that watched my original the OGL 1.1 leak was a fake, and didn't just watch the first 30 seconds and go, oh, well, obviously it was real because there's a document that obviously can't have been made up by someone. Or anyone that said, no, actually, it's been confirmed by both Kickstarter and the former VP of Wizards of the Coast that it's real. Guess what? I was right. It wasn't real. It wasn't a legal document. It was a frequently asked question. For those of you that may not have watched or may not have seen the community post I made about it, the leaked OGL was not the OGL 1.1. What it was a frequently asked question, and my theory, which I believe is pretty supported by the statement that Wizards of the Coast made, was it was a D&D Beyond article that was in the very, very, very early stages of being written. And I'm actually going to real quick pull up their statement, just so I don't get anything wrong. There we go. So, to kind of review what I said. In the first video, what I said was, this is not a legally binding document. This is not the OGL. And that was before it had leaked. There is no possible way this is the OGL. The wording isn't correct. There are some legal inconsistencies in there that a first-year law student would know. I know this because I have, I effectively have the equivalent training in this particular aspect of law of a first-year law student. I've taken some business law courses, which is what a first-year law student might take. I'm not 100% certain about exactly how specialized law school gets, or if you don't specialize yourself until after law school, because I've never wanted to be a lawyer. But it was fairly obvious to me that this wasn't real. And then the actual leak came out. The leak came out, and it wasn't. It said very clearly, this is a frequently asked question. And then as you went through, it mentioned that if you want to see the actual OGL, click on these hyperlinks that don't exist. And also, it was a Word document. It was a Word document that was printed as a PDF, but it was a Word document. You don't send contracts out as Word documents. It's a remarkably stupid thing to do. They are not protected like PDFs are. So yes, everything about that initial story was almost completely a lie. So do I feel the need to make an apology video to anyone? Absolutely not. The original journalist lied through her teeth about it. She didn't mention that it was an FAQ. She didn't mention anything about the fact that it said specifically in the document, this isn't the real document. If you want to see the real document, click on this little link. No, she lied through her teeth. She was also wrong repeatedly. She said, well, this is coming out tomorrow, January 4th. It didn't happen because it was never going to come out on January 4th. And then she did exactly what I said she was going to do, which was, when it didn't work, well, they're afraid of us, and that means we're doing a good job. For anyone making this question, because I've seen this question, what reason would she have to lie? She went from someone that nobody in the tabletop community knew about to interviewing Critical Role in a week. Why would she lie? Because it helped her career. And yes, I 100% believe that she was lying. And if she wants to, get mad at me, go for it. I have no money. I have no life. There's nothing you can do to me that my life hasn't already done to me first. No, I don't feel any need to make any sort of apology. Just like the other video I made when all this stuff leaked and I said, no, it's not happening. I was right then and I was right now. I do need to clarify, though. I was wrong about one thing that I'm not, to be 100% honest, I cannot remember everything I said in that video because it was a very little long video. But I don't think I said anything about the idea that the January 13th date was just this arbitrary date that they made up. I don't know if I said that, but that's what I believed. Again, the January 4th date was just a magical date that they made up. And we have proof of that because nothing happened on that date. Well, it was because they were scared. No, they weren't. They were annoyed. And they were upset with themselves because the last time they tried to calm people down, it just made them lie harder. So, no, nothing was ever going to happen on January 4th. It was a bold-faced lie. It was made up. There's nothing in the document that was leaked that claimed January 4th was anything. The only date that shows up in the document is January 13th was the day it was supposed to go into effect. Which, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the other video, but the idea of changing a contract and giving less than a minimum of 14 days for compliance effectively doesn't make sense to me. I tried looking up some contract law on it to find out, is there a federal law or even just a generally accepted practice of if you are changing a contract? Because for those of you that don't know, changing contracts is a thing that happens often. A lot of contracts are literally written, especially things like perpetual contracts, where they don't technically have an end date until one of the parties ends them. They will almost always have a clause in it that says any changes to this contract have to do this and this and this. And in that clause, generally it will have a time frame that the changes have to take place in. Like, changing this contract can be made, or modifications to the contract can be made by either party as long as they give 30 days notice or something like that. And that 30 days notice is an essential part of Kuka contract law because just because you change a Kuka contract that has already been signed does not mean the person that signed the previous version of the contract is in any way required to sign the new one. You are effectively writing a brand new contract. However, since it's a modification of an existing one, it's technically easier to do than writing a brand spanking new contract from a legal perspective. So that's why those things exist instead of them just going, okay, we're terminating this contract, we're giving you a new one. The other thing that's nice about a modifiable contract is during that 30-day period, the original contract stays in place. And then as soon as the 30-day period is up, the new contract instantly takes effect. So there's no kind of gap where there is no agreement. So those are the benefits of those, and this is a really, really common thing for contracts to be updated and things like that. The idea of them only giving 10 days or 9 days technically to for the new change to go into effect, I've never heard of that happening. I do not know if that is something that can happen because, again, my specialty is not in contract law specifically. My expertise, quote unquote, on the matter is being able to read a contract and tell you what it means because that's what I was trained to do as part of my degree. I'm not an expert in business law or anything like that. I just understand how contracts work as they relate to businesses, specifically businesses I have worked in. Yeah. They did say, I guess we should talk about the statement. I'm not going to read the entire statement. I'll have a link to this statement in the description if you want to read it. The main thing, and this is what I was getting with the whole January 13th thing, they do say In the second to last paragraph, they say a couple of last thoughts. First, we won't be able to release the new OGL today because we need to make sure we get it right, but it is coming. So, a lot of people have been assuming that this first, we won't be able to release the new OGL today, is confirmation that they were planning on releasing the old version today. And based on the wording I see here, I don't really see a lot to refute that interpretation. However, there is just as much ability to infer that this was simply them saying, hey, we would love to show you guys the new OGL. We just don't have it ready today. So I don't think it is a concrete confirmation that a lot of people are claiming that it is. I don't think you can just say that unless Wizards of the Coast somewhere says to someone, "Oh no, we did originally intend to release the OGL on January 13th." Unless they officially say that somewhere, I'm not going to consider that confirmed nor denied. But that particular phrase, I do understand, does lead some credence to that. So that being said, what do they actually talk about in this thing? First of all, they mention, hey, the whole goal of this here. Driving these goals were two separate principles. One, our job is to be good stewards of the game. And two, the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans. Nothing about those principles have wavered for a second. So, and then they had this. First, we wanted the ability to prevent the use of D&D content from being included in hateful and discriminatory products. I'm not even going to unpack that. Second, we want to address those attempting to use D&D in Web3, blockchain games, and NFTs by making clear that OGL content is limited to tabletop role-playing content like campaigns, modules, and supplements. And third, we wanted to ensure that the OGL is for the content creator, the home brewer, the aspiring designer, our players, and the community, not major corporations to use for their own commercial and promotional purpose. So, that was the original goal. And the thing that everybody is latching onto right now is that not major corporations with use of. Like, I watched Roll for Combat, who I have been watching probably the closest of anyone, because up until today they had the most they had the most balanced coverage of it. They were going, okay, yes, this sounds bad, but we're talking to lawyers, we're talking to all these other things, and they were giving out good information. I watched their stream this morning. By the way, for those of you wondering why this is coming out, this is so late, I did not sleep this morning until a few hours after all this news launched. Remarkably enough, this has been setting off my anxiety worse than almost anything else I've had to deal with in the past year. So I've not been sleeping well at all. But I watched some of their live stream and they've gone off the deep end. I'm no longer following them for anything. They have turned into, "We hate the wizards and we are going to kill them," which they're not going to do. But that's what everybody is focusing on. Is like, we never intended to make something that would create competitors. Guess what? That is 100% true. The original OGL was never designed to make Pathfinder. Did it make Pathfinder? Yes, it did. But it wasn't designed to do that. It's the same way that the custom map option in Warcraft 3 was never meant to create Dota. But it did. And then Dota created League of Legends. Just because, two statements can be true at the same time. They never intended for that to be able to happen is a true statement. 2, it did happen is a true statement. And they are allowed to go, you know what? We don't want to create more competitors to our products. Like, they are a business. They're allowed to say, we really don't like other people being able to become our direct competitors off of the work that we did first. For anyone that has created anything, it would really, really suck if you spend years and years and years creating something that you really enjoy, and then somebody else takes everything that you created, adds a slap of paint to it, and then becomes just as popular as you are and are hailed as this amazing visionary person. Yeah, that would fucking suck. I completely understand that. The rest of this, first of all, it does not 100% confirm anything. And it's one of the reasons why I 100% believe that this was probably one of the better responses they could have given. Like, to give you an example, this is why our early drafts of the new OGL included the provisions they did. The draft language was provided to content creators and publishers so their feedback could be considered before anything was finalized. In addition to language allowing us to address discriminatory and hateful content and clarifying what types of product the OGL covers, our draft included royalty language designed to apply to large corporations attempting to use OGL content. It's never our intent to impact the vast majority of the community. All these things are 100% true, and a lot of people are taking this to mean that the quote-unquote leaked document was true. Nothing in there indicates that that was anything. And it debunks a lot of what these people are saying. No, this is the thing that's going to be released tomorrow. Never was. They're saying quite literally drafts were put out. And a lot of people are claiming that content creators and various organizations got legal contracts that they were asked to sign. I have a hard time believing that because the OGL in and of itself doesn't require a signature. And it never has. Anyone that has created OGL content has never signed a single thing. The thing that makes something OGL compliant is you print the OGL in it. It's one of the easiest ways to figure out if something is part of the OGL or not, is look through the product. If it has the entirety of the original open game license in it, then it is OGL content. If it doesn't, then it is not OGL content. Now, are there some people that publish things thinking they were publishing under the OGL, but they didn't put that in? Yes, that's very, very possible. If anyone did that, they're currently in breach of contract, and their particular product is illegal. Because part of the OGL states you have to have this entire thing somewhere in your product. So, the idea that these companies got contracts that they were supposed to sign is a lie. Again, there have been lies since the beginning of this. There is no OGL for one D&D. No, there is. Well, it's really bad and they're going to steal everything you ever did. No. All this just continual lie, and now that it's happening again exactly as I predicted, they're doubling down on the lies. Well, everything they say here is a lie, and we win, and we're still never playing D&D. Well, here's another news flash. Kobold Press, if they continue to make their tabletop RPG, which I'm 100% like, I love getting new RPGs. I'm a huge fan of people playing as many different RPGs as you can possibly do because it makes you a better player, it makes you a better game master. 100% of the time. However, if Kobold Press completely abandons everything to do with D&D and just focuses on their new tabletop RPG, they will be bankrupt in 5 years. If I had money, I would put it on it. Their company is not built in a way that it can survive without D&D. MCDM, Matt Colville's company, has also mentioned that they're making their own tabletop RPG, which they had been planning to do for a while, and this just kind of sped it up. If they completely abandon Dungeons and Dragons, they'll probably be fine because MCDM has never been exclusively a publisher of D&D related materials. They did a lot of it, don't get me wrong, but MCDM is significantly larger than just their D&D 5th edition publications. So I think they actually might be able to weather this. They will lose money. Everyone that claims that, oh, I'm never covering Dungeons and Dragons again, will be back. You know why? Because they're going to lose shit tons of money. And this is the hard truth that a lot of people, and this is, in my opinion, this is the whole point of all the lies and all the misinformation and all of the calls to action that didn't make sense, like cancel your D&D Beyond subscriptions because that's all Wizards cares about. No, they don't. Wizards makes a shit ton more money off of books than they ever were going to make off of D&D Beyond subscriptions. The person that started spreading that rumor, which was 100% a lie, I don't know if it was a lie by the person that started spreading it or a lie by the person that made the quote-unquote email that came from someone that worked inside D&D Beyond that either doesn't actually work there or like empties trash cans for them. But it was a bold-faced lie. The reason that it existed was it was very easy to be performative with it. You could show your cancellation, and they encouraged people to show their cancellation pages and things like that. Agreeing not to buy future D&D books is a worthless thing to do. Actively doing something like canceling your subscription, despite the fact that it does literally nothing to Wizards of the Coast. Doesn't hurt them in any way, shape, or form right now because they already have your money. And a lot of people like me use the yearly subscription because it's like $25. That's another thing. For a year subscription to this, it's $25. For a single book, it's $40 to $60. So why the hell would they care about a single $25 subscription when they release 3 to 4 books a year and a shit ton of other things like board games and minis and everything else? And you can buy their books on the DM's Guild, and you can buy them on Roll20, and you can buy them on Fantasy Grounds. And there are about a billion different places you can get them. D&D Beyond is not that. D&D Beyond subscriptions are not that big a deal. So anyway, the whole purpose behind all these lies and all this misinformation and all this catastrophizing has been, we want to kill D&D. It was started by people that already didn't like Dungeons and Dragons, and it was spearheaded by people like the OSR movement. It was spearheaded by Pathfinder fanboys. And everybody else that had something that they were mad at Dungeons and Dragons about. This has been a witch hunt. And you want to know how I know that's true? Because all the people that were saying that, you know what, we don't want them having royalties. We don't want them owning all of our stuff. We don't want them. They got literally everything they wanted. They specifically stated content already released under 1.0A will also remain unaffected. Specifically, they say this is no longer. Again, the prevailing legal theory by morons was that somehow things that were already published under this contract would now fall under the purview of a new contract, which that's never how it's worked. Retroactive contracts don't exist for good reason. So they confirm that content already released under 1.0A will also remain unaffected. And they also means other expressions such as educational and charity campaigns, live streams, cosplays, VTT uses, etc. will remain unaffected by any OGL updates. They got it. They're like, this is going to kill all this other stuff. No, you got that. The next thing they say, what it will not contain is any royalty structure. It will also not include the license back provision that some people were afraid was a means for us to steal work. They said, we don't want any royalties and we don't want them owning everything else. You got it. You got everything you wanted except for them to say we're not updating it. Guess what, folks? It's being updated. It has to be updated. It's a 23-year-old document. Legal documents don't last that long without updates. It's a dumb idea, and it's rife for exploitation, and it's also rife for someone to eventually just declare it null and void. due to the fact of how old it is and how laws have changed and things like that. Like it very easily could come into some courtroom and some judge should just go, yeah, no, this contract is no longer valid. Everything about it is null and void, and just get it completely destroyed. That's why you update legal contracts like this that are perpetual. So yes, it's being updated, but all the bad stuff isn't. And again, they do explain, which I don't think I ever went into my explanation, but the whole thing where you give us an irrevocable right to use your stuff, whatever. That particular that particular clause was not written by Wizards of the Coast or anyone involved in any of this, or anyone currently writing law in this decade. That particular clause has existed for decades. And they explain it right here. The license-backed language was intended to protect us and our partners from creators who incorrectly allege that we steal their work simply because of coincidental similarities. Example, I decide I am going to write my own adventure. And in my adventure, the party has to go through a forest that repeats over and over and over again. And the only way to get through this forest is to go in a very particular path. And the only way for you to figure out which path that is there's music playing in the forest. And if you follow the music, it'll actually show you the path you have to take to the forest without getting lost. Every time you get lost, you get thrown to the beginning of the forest. Well, at the end of the forest, there's this really cool sword. And it's a super, super powerful holy sword that is specifically designed to fight evil. And it's made for paladins. And so the whole point of it is you go, you get the sword, and you pull it out of the stone that it's stuck in because is stuck in there. And then you have to go back and the evil bad guys, because you can't use this sword until you attune to it, obviously. And so bad guys immediately start attacking, so you don't have time to attune to anything, and you have to fight your way out of the bad guys back there. So let's say I created that. And then Wizards of the Coast releases an official sequel to the Feywild adventure that they did that happens to involve a sword sitting in a stone in the middle of a forest. Well, I could say, you guys stole my idea. You owe me money. Because I informed you, I had to show you the document, and that means you guys had access to it. By the way, for people wondering, the way that copyright infringement lawsuits work is you actually have to prove, one of the things you have to prove is you have to prove that they knew your copyrighted work existed before they made their copyrighted work. It's come up a lot of times in music copyright cases. It comes up pretty constantly that, yeah, I didn't know these people existed when I wrote my song. I had never heard their song, and it's up to the accuser, the prosecutor's party, to prove that, no, you had to know this exists because of this, this, and this, or you commented on it here, so you obviously knew it existed. If you can prove that they didn't know it existed, it doesn't matter if it is a word-for-word copy of what it was. If you can't prove that they knew it existed when they were writing it, it is not copyright infringement. It is simply you guys both had the same idea. So that little thing, that clause in there that mentioned that, hey, you have to give us a copy of everything that you're printing, that opens them up to massive, massive copyright infringement lawsuits. Because now they cannot claim that they were unaware that somebody wrote a story about a sword, a magic evil slaying sword in a stone. So that particular thing was put in there simply so that they are allowed to write, and their the people that they hire to write their adventures don't have to look through every single submission ever created in order to be able to write their own things. That was the entire purpose of it. It was never intended to It was never intended to steal anyone's content. If you look at, I can't remember who it was. I think the Twitter terms of service has that exact line in it. I would assume TikTok has that exact same line in it. Twitch, I believe, has that exact same line in it. Literally any company that has the ability to accept input from fans and things like that needs to have that clause in there for the most part. They also mentioned that that particular language is going to be rewritten and things like that, so that I don't know if they're going to take that out. Again, I think it'd be remarkably stupid for them to take out any reference to that, because again, it opens them up for a lot of copyright lawsuits. That, to be perfectly honest, if they have to choose between putting language like that in to protect themselves or just never releasing another OGL, they're going to not release another OGL. A company can't exist if they're constantly worried about every single thing they publish being sued into oblivion for copyright infringement. And it does happen often. There are copyright lawsuits constantly for music, for screenplays, things like that. The majority of them don't go through, but it still costs the companies money to fight and litigate it before it gets dismissed and things like that. So that's all that was. So literally, they got everything they wanted. Literally everything that all these people claim that they wanted, they got. And yet they're still like, nope, this is all lies and it's all misinformation, and I'm never working with Wizards of the Coast again. You have burned all the bridges. By doing what? They didn't do anything. There was a magical leak of a document that didn't make any sense, that was constantly wrong over and over and over again. My favorite one now is the 2.0 has already leaked. It was 1.1 yesterday. Now it is 2.0 and it is already leaked. Are you kidding me? It's another nonsense lie. Again, the entire purpose of this was to try to dethrone D&D. And you're not going to do it. If you don't like D&D, that's absolutely fine. Again, I've been playing a lot of other RPGs. I'm a little bit burnt out on D&D. I will be 100% honest. When one of my 2 ongoing D&D campaigns ends, which still probably has 6 months to a year minimum, but when it ends, my next campaign with those people is probably not going to be Dungeons and Dragons. I'm probably going to do something else. It's not because I hate Dungeons and Dragons, but I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons almost exclusively for a decade. And it's a great system, don't get me wrong, and it's super, super fun. But every so often I want to do something different. And that's why, Realms of the Wild has been an absolute blessing for me, because it's given me the ability to play something that's not Dungeons and Dragons. And we've been doing that for 5 years. And officially, Saturday, one of the last 2 or 3 episodes happens. We're almost at the end of Realms of the Wild. Check it out, Zelda Universe, or twitch.tv/Zelda Universe TV, at 11 a.m. Central Time on Saturday. Yeah, I can get people not liking D&D for a variety of different reasons, but this hate, this I am going to destroy your company and ensure that a lot of people have to get fired, and a lot of businesses will start going out of business because the vast majority of independent publishers do not have the infrastructure to be able to print books and things and send them out to retailers so that brick and mortar stores can sell things. Now, most game stores still live on Magic the Gathering. They will, until Magic the Gathering doesn't exist anymore, they will always live on Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is the reason we have brick and mortar stores. But if you like your friendly local game store, Dungeons and Dragons is a big part of their business. End of story. And Kobold Press cannot replace that. They do not have the infrastructure that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro does. They could never ship out, they could never print enough books to be able to ship them out to all of the friendly local game stores just in the US, much less Wizards of the Coast is a multinational company. So Wizards of the Coast goes down, a bunch of friendly local game stores die. A lot of people are out of jobs, and you no longer have a place that you can play in person. Which I realize in the current climate, that's not really happening that much. Most people are playing online or in homes. But when I got into the tabletop to the D&D, that was how you played D&D. Was you went to a friendly local game store and saw what games they were setting up. The D&D Encounter programs was essential for me getting into the system itself. The D&D Adventurers League, I watched as the D&D Adventurers League turned a small store into a thriving business because I was running their Adventure League program. A ton of conventions rely on the D&D Adventurers League for a decent amount of their ticket sales. GaryCon does, Gamehole Con does. Those are the two biggest conventions here in Wisconsin. Winter Fantasy has a decent size representation. I think Gen Con still has a decent size representation of stuff like that. Like it is a big business. If you decide that, yes, we want to kill Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to be killing a hell of a lot more than, Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford. All right? So that is why I'm so upset about this. Again, I was almost completely right in everything I said. The only thing that I might have gotten wrong is it's theoretically possible that they were planning on releasing something on the 13th. Beyond that, I was right. Not only was I right about my opinions of the documents as they leaked, I was also right about what was going to happen when it was proved that they were lies. They were going to say, well, they canceled because they're afraid of us. They went back on all of this because I published the leak. No, they didn't. They went back on this because it was a dumb idea. Again, let's say that the leak actually contained language that might have gone into a final product. Okay, I'll concede that far. As soon as, and this is my favorite thing, is you have all these people, including like Roll for Combat and the rules lawyer and all these other people that keep claiming that, well, we have a lawyer and he says that it's not possible to invalidate an earlier. You can't get rid of OGL 1.1a. You just can't. Hasbro is a $6.5 billion company. Wizards of the Coast is a $1 billion company. You think neither of their legal departments thought about that? No, not a single lawyer anywhere in the company said this isn't possible. You really think that? Because if you do, I've got a great deal on the Brooklyn Bridge. Of course they knew it wouldn't work, because it can't. That's not how contracts work. Again, my initial prediction was this was written by someone and never went to legal. And everything that I see here confirms that. It was a draft. They hadn't finished figuring it out. And everyone is still freaking out about this nonsense. They were lied. You were lied to. I'm really sorry. It sucks when you're lied to. But you were lied to repeatedly, over and over. And the sunken cost fallacy makes you want to, well, no, they didn't lie because that would mean I'm stupid, and I'm not stupid. Therefore, it must be that Wizards is lying now. I literally watched Roll for Combat go, lie, 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 based on you because your butt hurts? Nope, nope, it's not how it works. It's never how it has worked. You guys were patently false. You guys got lied to, you got fooled, you got used. You basically helped a journalist get her career off the ground. Because again, I'd never heard of this woman until she produced a lie. And she went from lying about the OGL to interviewing the largest and most profitable stream on Twitch. The dots aren't even that hard to connect. There's no dots to connect. They're already connected for you, folks. You just have to look at the picture. You were lied to. As far as my opinion on the OGL, or the OGL announcement, I'm going to reiterate something one of my other friends has said. This is not the OGL. The announcement that was made today was not the OGL. If everything they talked about in here is translated into whatever their new version of the OGL turns out to be, I would be very, very happy. I was not particularly fond of the official statement that was given by Wizards. I didn't like the royalty aspect. I thought that was annoying. I didn't like the reporting aspect. I thought that was annoying. And it did seem a little bit predatory. And again, I mentioned back then, this reeks of corporate. For those who don't know, corporate is a 4-letter word. And if you don't understand what that means, you have never worked in a corporate structure. Corporate always does something, things that seem really, really stupid to the people that are on the ground. Mostly because corporate has never been on the ground. And I have had, at least in my own mind, I have had people come out and say, well, you said that stupid people can't run businesses. They can't. You don't have stupid CEOs. You really don't. Because they don't make it, they cannot make it far enough to become a CEO being stupid. For anyone that doesn't know, the average CEO spends the first 10 to 20 years of their working life working anywhere between 60 to 80 hours a week, sometimes upwards of 120 hours a week, for 10 to 20 years. And they do nothing but succeed. That's what it takes to be a CEO. That is why... I won't get into that because that'll ignite another argument. But there are reasons why CEOs are generally cut from the same cloth, because it is a very, very rare personality to the type that can handle doing that. CEOs don't tend to have families. CEOs don't tend to have a lot of friends. They give up everything for the company. Because of that, being stupid does not get you very far when you're pushing 60 to 80 hour work weeks. Because once you give about, and this is from personal experience, once you get above about 50 hours in a work week, or once you get beyond the 12-hour mark for a single day of work, I used to pull like 16 to 18 hour shifts back when I worked retail management, because management. After about the 10 to 12 hour mark, everything feels the same. Like we used to joke about a little bit as managers. Once you hit 12 hours, you could work 13 hours or you could work 48 hours. Your body feels the same because it's shut down at that point and you're going mostly on autopilot. And if you are stupid, your autopilot does stupid things. I've seen it happen. I've seen people lose their jobs over it. Justifiably so. They did stupid things and they deserve to be fired. So as much as CEOs aren't stupid, corporations and corporate does stupid things on a regular basis. And it's not that, they are stupid or that they're money hungry or anything. They simply do not have the understanding of the base level of the company that they think they do. They're arrogant. My favorite example of this, I worked for a company that was merging with a major competitor. Our CEO at the time was not a part of the merger deal. This was the CEO that the CEO before them had made this particular company record profits. Our revenue was lower than our closest competitor, but our profit was significantly higher. So we were selling less, but we were making more money off of what we sold because we were selling smarter. The company itself was doing brilliantly. It was getting rave reviews. It was getting awards and things like that. It was doing really, really well. This CEO stepped in and fucked up everything. Not because they were stupid, but because they didn't understand how the company worked. And I will almost guarantee, I haven't looked up to see what they're doing anymore. I will almost guarantee they're running another company, and they're probably doing it a lot better because they just didn't understand our particular customer base, and they didn't understand our particular market. That's all it was. But when the merger started happening, there was a intranet portal. The intranet was basically if you were on one of the like managers' computers or something like that, you could go into the intranet, which was a company only website. You could only access the website from inside the company, and you could do things like you could get your sales forecast for the day or the month or whatever you needed it for, and you could deal with payroll and stuff like that. That's what the intranet was for. But it also had a landing page that would have announcements that most managers ignored because really important stuff we would be given emails about. But it was still interesting, and I cannot tell you how many times I saw, thank you, I saw just absolutely stupid things on there. Some of them actually got implemented. None of them lasted. It was a constant stream of just moronic ideas that sound good on paper, but just aren't. And because I was in a pilot store, that meant that I got to test most of them and then give the feedback of, well, this was stupid. Please never do that again. My favorite thing that the CEO ever did was they wrote poetry. I kid you not, rhyming couplets, poetry. It was some of the worst poetry. Like, it makes Vogon poetry sound good. It was just drivel and moronic. Just it was the biggest slap in the face that they could have done to the associates, because the associates are worried about, am I going to have a job? Because since we're merging with our big competitor, we're going to have stores that used to be competing against each other that are now part of the same country or company, and one of them is going to close. Does that mean I no longer have a job? And they did this. So yes, the idea of corporate doing stupid things is not a shocker to me. And having stupid ideas is not a shocker to me. That's why they have legal departments. That's why they have HR departments and other things like that. Because when corporate does something stupid, these departments speak up and go, I think it's a great idea, but there's this pesky thing called the Fair Labor Standards Act. And it says what you're suggesting is illegal. I know. Crazy, right? So maybe we don't do that. And that's what happened here. Somebody that has never worked at Wizards of the Coast said, I want money. They didn't really have the authority to do a whole lot because obviously all this stuff went away. And people got the wrong idea and then lied about it. That's what this was. I am happy with the response that they gave. I would have been happier if they'd given the response on Monday. Because again, I really wanted to be able to go, well, you were wrong about everything. And at this particular point, that dipshit of a journalist can say they were right. And they weren't. They lied through their teeth. In my opinion. But, yeah. This is everything I wanted. They got rid of the they got rid of the royalties. I wasn't a big fan of the royalties, and I kept saying this over and over again, and people kept kind of focusing on, oh, Hasbro's doing real bad. No, they're not. They the last 2 years they've posted 15% increase year over year on revenue, and then 17% the year after that. So 2020 was 15%, 2021 was 17%. The year before 2019, I believe it was 7 or 6%. And then 2021, we don't have the numbers from 2021 because Q1 or Q4 or 2022, Q4 2022, depending on the company, either just ended or won't be ending for another couple days or a week or so, because business quarters don't follow the calendar exactly. But if we look at their last 365 days compared to using their Q3 numbers, they were still up about 1%. So not showing the growth that they were, still not doing bad in any way, shape, or form. Hasbro's doing fine. The amount of money they would have gotten from royalties is a pittance. They make significantly more money off of a single book release than they would ever make off of every single royalty they could have collected on this. And they knew that. This was never about them making money. This was simply them putting a slight bit of control in to hopefully prevent creating another Pathfinder, using all of the hard work that everyone at their company has done to make their lives more difficult. Do I think Pathfinder is this horrible, disgusting company? Well, I have my own opinions on Pathfinder and Paizo in general. I'm not a fan of Pathfinder the system. I think it's overly complicated. However, if everything they had said had been true, and I mentioned in my my last video, I have been considering what I'm going to do if this stuff is true, because if all of it was true, which it wasn't, and it was never going to be, but I'm always going to make plans for worst case scenarios, because that's how my anxiety works. If it had turned out to be true, I would never have started playing Pathfinder. And again, part of that is I don't like the system. It's just not fun for me. I don't like that much complexity just for complexity's sake. And I vehemently despise the Pathfinder community. That's not to say that everybody who plays Pathfinder is a bad person. Not in any way, shape, or form. I have a lot of friends that play Pathfinder. I've met people through this channel that are huge supporters of Pathfinder 1st Edition and 2nd Edition, and they've been nothing but wonderful to me. However, the majority of the Pathfinder community that I have met are spiteful, vindictive bullies. Again, I tell this story constantly because it encapsulates Pathfinder in my mind. I mentioned before I used to run I used to run the D&D Adventures League program at a friendly local game store. I did it so well, they put me in charge of the Adventure League programs at all of their stores. They had 3 different stores. So I went to another store to try and get another program started. When I was there, I was talking to one of the cashiers because, again, at that point I was still working in retail. And I'm always going to bond with other retail people. If you've worked retail, you and I will have a great time talking about the nonsense things that happened in retail. So I was talking to him, and he was telling me about, because I'd had a lot of really bad interactions with Pathfinder players. There was a local, I don't know if anyone remembers when this was a thing, but there was a thing that was called meetups. They're not really used much anymore, but 8-10 years ago they were a huge deal. And I belonged to a meetup group in the greater Milwaukee area, which I technically didn't live in, but that's where I played. I would drive into the greater Milwaukee area, which, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, the greater Milwaukee Greater Milwaukee is a massive. It's basically all of southeast. Basically all of southeast Wisconsin, and goes halfway to Madison. Like, it's a massive, massive area. I lived a little bit outside of it. So anyway, I belonged to this this group because it was how I found my first D&D Encounters game, and it was how I got involved in the convention scene and stuff. But it was not exclusively D&D, and the majority of the players in there for a while were Pathfinder players, and they were the most vindictive, just horrible people in the world. I was running games at my game store, and I got told point blank, we're going to stop you from running games here because you are not one of our approved DMs. And I said, I'm sorry, what did you say? You're not one of our approved DMs. You haven't gone through the process of being approved, so you're not allowed to run games here. I said, says who? Well, we do, and you're a part of our group. I said, then I'll leave the group. Well, you can't do that. You can't run games here if you're not a part of the group. I said, the store owner over there that I know by name, and he knows me by name, and he likes me because I'm making him shit tons of money. Yeah, he said I'm allowed to work. I'm allowed to run whatever the hell I want here, and I can do whatever I want. Well, we'll talk to him. You go ahead and do that. So I'm talking to this employee at this new store after I've already done my little spiel and people are talking about it. And he goes, oh yeah, we're really happy to have Adventure League stuff here. PFS has been killing us. And for those of you who don't know, PFS is Pathfinder Society. That's the Pathfinder version of the D&D Adventures League. Which, before anyone yells at me for this, PFS existed long before D&D Adventures League. However, more people are familiar with the Adventures League than they are with Pathfinder Society in my circles, so I will make that comparison. I think PFS started way back when Living Forgotten Realms was a thing, so... or maybe not, because it would have had to have started during 4th edition. Living Forgotten Realms was dead by then. Anyway, I think Encounters happened around the same time that they started, which is what the Adventures League evolved from. So anyway, I go, really? He goes, yeah, we had we used to host PFS stuff, every week, and we had some people could come in, and they were kind of browsing around the store, and they saw the people playing Pathfinder, and so they came over and they were kind of looking. They go, wow, this is really interesting. What is it? And the Pathfinder people just kind of it's Pathfinder. And they went back to playing. Wow, this looks really fun. Can we try? Listen, this is very difficult, and you are ruining our game. So go find something else and let us play our game, okay? And that's how they treated paying customers. And the employee went over and kind of smoothed things out and showed them, some board games and stuff. The customers left with a purchase. And then, because I believe it was the store manager that was in the store at the time, went over to this group and said, hey, listen, you ever talk to one of my customers again, you will not be welcome in this store, and I want you all to leave right now. You can come back for your next game, whatever, but you're done today. And like I said, if you ever talk to one of my customers like that again, you will never be allowed back in this store. You don't pay for a table. You don't buy a whole lot of stuff from me. We offer this as a service, and you guys are abusing it. So get out. That is the Pathfinder Society I am familiar with. And that is not my only interaction with them. I have sat down at Pathfinder to the tables where I have been kicked out because I don't play enough Pathfinder. Or because I play Dungeons and Dragons at all. I have had friends that have sat down at tables that do play Pathfinder a lot, that came that didn't have a min-max character, and they were kicked out. The Pathfinder Society rules are very cutthroat, and they promote a very much DM versus player environment. I know a lot of Pathfinder Society DMs that brag about how many players they kill. because they get rewards for killing players, or at least they did at one point. Pathfinder is not a good system in my mind. I will never play Pathfinder. I will explore it because I think it's an interesting system, and I think it does a few things interestingly. But you will never see me running a Pathfinder game because of that. And what is currently happening with Kobold Press, with all these other companies that decide to make their own RPGs, which a lot of them are going to find out exactly how hard it is to write your own RPG, especially not using any copyrighted content from the SRD, which there are many. Things like multi-attack is copywritten. Things like feats are copywritten. No, they can't copyright mechanics. This is my other favorite thing. You can't copyright mechanics, so you actually can't copyright D&D, and the OGL is completely meaningless. No, it's not. The OGL gives them permission to use all of the terms that we all know. The advantage, disadvantage system, they can't copyright. The terms advantage and disadvantage, meaning roll twice and take the higher of the two rolls or the lower of the two rolls, they can and have copywritten. So if you use the phrase advantage in your new RPG system to mean that, you have just violated copyright law and you are going to be sued and you're going to lose. Two-weapon fighting, the action, bonus action, movement economy. All of that stuff is allowed to be copywritten. All those names, all those words are allowed to be copywritten. That's why my current favorite system right now, Essence 20, that's why they have free actions instead of bonus actions, because bonus actions are copywritten. Free actions are not. And theoretically, if they tied a different mechanic to it and used the same word, it's possible they might not run into legal problems. I'm actually not 100% certain on that. I am relatively certain on the other topics. So everyone that's saying, well, you can't copyright a system. Yes, but you can copyright all the words in the system. And that makes it unbelievably hard to write anything. So, Kobold Press, if you guys follow the Pathfinder thing where half of what most Pathfinder players do is go to D&D hangout places and goes, well, you guys should be playing Pathfinder. Guess what? Your company's going to fold a lot faster than I've already predicted. The reason Pathfinder's gotten away with it for so long is they had no competition when they were getting big. And they created an almost cult-like following by claiming that we're the underdogs and everyone is trying to persecute us and you must help us. They were victims. They were the underdog. That's why they still exist. And they made a really good product. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it's overly complex and over-designed. But it's a solid product. Like, when I did my review of the core book is freaking gorgeous. The Pathfinder 2nd Edition core book, so pretty. The layout is really, really enticing. It reads relatively well. It has the same problem that D&D has, where they force you to flip back and forth when you're building a character. But they copied D&D, so surprise, they copied their mistakes as well. But yeah, like, I think this new orc, which, by the way, for the love of God, change it to something else. Not because orc is a bad name. Orc is a funny name. Excuse me for a second. Orc is a really funny name. However, my background is in retail, and most people are unaware. The letters ORC in retail, all in capitals, stands for Organized Retail Crime. And if anyone wants me to tell stories about dealing with organized retail crime and some of the training I had to go through and some of the weird stuff that happened because of it, like I actually went up against orcs. Say something in the comment. Maybe I'll do like a video where I talk about some of the weird stories from retail. But anyway, so anytime I see ORC in capital letters, my brain always replaces that with organized retail crime. So the Open RPG C. I can't remember what C is for it. Um, can we call it Oracle? Can we put the L on there for the license? Can we just call it Oracle? Can we do anything but just calling it Orc? Again, I get it. It's really, really funny, and it's a great acronym. But please, can we not call it Orc? Because all I'm ever going to see is organized retail crime. Organized retail crime. But anyway, so I think the Orc, I think that is fantastic. And I'm something I think would be hilarious. It's not going to happen. Something I think would be absolutely hilarious is if D&D signed on to the Orc. Like, that would be the ultimate just fuck you for this entire situation. Was like, actually, you guys wrote something really well, and we didn't have to pay lawyers to write it. We'll just steal yours. I think that would be absolutely hilarious. It's not going to happen, but it would be great. But I think that in and of itself is fantastic. And I want to see everybody jump onto it. Monty Cook Games, who makes the Cypher system, last summer released their own version of the OGL, specifically for the Cypher system. It has a name. It's like the COSL or something like that, for the Cypher system open system license or something like that. It's great. I really, really love it. It's actually less restrictive than the OGL 1.1a, which I really, really like. And I sincerely doubt Monty Cook is ever going to pull something like this. So it's really great, and I love the Cypher system. So I'm a huge fan of SRDs and of open gaming license and things like that. It cannot have a negative impact on the hobby itself to have people that are allowed to create more content with less restrictions. Like, it is a net gain always. So I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but if everyone else in the OGL or the Orc acts like Pathfinder has for the past decade, they will all die out, and Pathfinder will simply absorb all of their players. That's what's going to happen, because, again, the only reason Pathfinder got away with it is Pathfinder is D&D. That's the only reason they've gotten away for it as long as they as long as they have. White Wolf and the World of Darkness people don't go to D&D forums and Reddits and stuff like that. So what you should really be playing is World of Darkness. Pathfinder people, that is all they do on Reddit. Call of Cthulhu players don't try to get people to play their game. And yet they're still like the number 3 game in the world. There's apparently a huge market for Call of Cthulhu in, I think it's Japan. They eat it up over there. And so compared to everything else, I believe Call of Cthulhu, it might be number 2. Because I believe worldwide it actually does better than Pathfinder. And it's the only person that ever competes with it is D&D, because it's D&D. So yeah, overall, to me, this is the best thing that could have happened. We got rid of the royalty structure. I'm super happy about that. They specifically stated OGL 1.1a stuff is going to be completely unaffected. They specifically said live streams, cosplays, virtual tabletop uses, all that stuff are not going to be affected by this. And by the way, for anyone wondering about me, since I do publish, or I have published, D&D 5th edition content, none of the things I've published use the open game license. I actually have a specific agreement with DM's Guild, as does anyone that publishes on the DM's Guild. We have a different license that we operate under. That's how, and profit sharing is already built into the agreement. So the OGL was never going to affect me at all. First of all, because I don't make enough money off of it for me to be even considered in the low tier one. But also, I've never used the OGL. I have a specific contract with DM's Guild. As does everyone that publishes on the DM's Guild. There is no open game content on the DM's Guild. Open game content or open game license is specifically for self-publishing, and I've never wanted to self-publish. It's a nightmare. So I'm happy. I'm happy that all this stuff has happened. I'm happy they're getting rid of the royalties. I'm happy they're getting rid of the license back provision. Despite the fact that I didn't think it was as big a problem, it was the right thing to do to kind of assuage people's feelings about this. Yeah, I think, and they say this. I'm gonna see if I can find the line. Da, 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 da. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won and so did we. Our plan was always to solicit input of the community, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people are saying that this is PR speak for them trying to save face. No. Since D&D Next, Wizards of the Coast has shown an incredible amount of deference to their audience. That's why 5th edition is as popular as it is. That's why they're doing all these playtests for one did a D&D. I never thought the new OGL was ever going to be something horrible. Again, I was not thrilled with the royalty things, but to be perfectly honest, the royalty thing makes sense. From a business perspective, from a legal perspective, it just made sense. You may not like it, but it is what it is. You are using something that hundreds of people put thousands of hours into create, and you are not changing it that much a lot of the time. So yes, they are allowed to say we would like some money from that. So yeah, I think this is a best case scenario for everyone, and anyone that's still saying, "Oh, I'm still never doing D&D because they lost my trust." No, the lies that were told about them lost your trust, and you believe them. You lost your own trust. Go fuck yourself. I did not and am not going to cancel my D&D Beyond subscription. I bought the legendary package, whatever it is, where I own every single book that D&D is published for 5th edition. And I say that proudly. I'm proud of the fact that I own every single book. I like the fact that I own the complete system as it is right now, because it's a good system. And your opinions on D&D aside, and the opinions of everyone else in the world aside, I would not be the person that I am today if I had not discovered 4th edition D&D. I would not have the abilities I have today. To be 100% honest, and this is going to get a little bit dark, I would probably not be alive today if I had not found D&D. With everything that's happened with my health, with me being trapped in a basement for, it's been 1.5 years since I've gone outside. And in that 1.5 years, if I've spent, in the entire 1.5 years, if I've spent more than maybe an hour or two total combined time outside of this basement, I would be surprised. My life is horrible. I wake up every morning incredibly sick. I never know when I'm going to be awake or asleep. I have night terrors and nightmares regularly. I have panic attacks every single day. I have seizures and full body convulsions, and now I'm getting these strange heart attack-like events. My life is a festering shithole. But D&D has been the one thing where I've actually felt like I matter. Like my life has some kind of value. because I've been able to create things that other people enjoy, and I've been able to interact with people. I raised over $7,000 for charity doing this. D&D has changed my life. I would not be here without it, and I'm not going to give up on it just because they made some stupid attempts at doing stupid things that they never went through with. God, if I was judged on the things that I planned on doing that I never did, first of all, I'd be in jail a few times over, most of which would be for suicide attempts. This entire situation has just been one lie after another, after another, after another. And I hate it. I have PTSD, both simple and complex. One of my triggers, unlike the tons of people on Twitter that claim that they've been gaslit, they haven't. You know what actual gaslighting is? Actual gaslighting is when people, when a person slowly starts telling you lies to make you doubt your ability to trust your own memory. And it makes you entirely reliant on your abuser, because they can tell you things didn't happen the way you remember, and you just believe them. You believe that your memory is not accurate and that you're delusional and you make up memories. I have been in that situation. So the final part of any gaslighting is they tell you easily disprovable, blatant lies, and they get you to believe them. So now, when I see easily disprovable, blatant lies, like the OGL is going away, or this is a legal document, my brain goes, oh look, someone is trying to gaslight you, you're in mortal danger. And I freak out. That's why I made my last video. Probably wasn't a great idea to make that last video, especially since nobody cares what I have to say. But I needed to make that for my own sanity. It's the reason I'm making this video. I was right, and I'm very, very happy I'm right, and nobody's going to give a damn. I will guarantee in the comments of this video, I'm going to have a bunch of people saying, oh yeah, copium much? Or how does it feel to be this wrong? God, I had like 4 or 5 people use that exact phrase on me. Yes, people are not going to believe this. There's nothing I can do about that. If you somehow believe that that everything that has been said up until now is true and everything that Wizard of the Coast said is false, you need to seriously talk to someone. This is not me being insulting or anything. You need to talk to someone. Someone who can give you professional help, because you are invested in something to the point where you are becoming delusional and you are believing you are believing things that can't be true. And generally, that is an indication of something significantly more serious. It was in my case. And every other person that I've met that has had similar experiences eventually finds out the same thing. Something seriously bad has happened to you somewhere in your life, and you've never dealt with it. So you need to go talk to someone right now. If you're like me and you're still skeptical of everything, well, it's called being a cynic. There's no cure for that. Nobody can help with that. That's just your life. Welcome. But yeah, so overall, I was right. They lied, in my opinion. And I will not be making another post about the OGL. I will not be making another video about it, because I will guarantee you right now, more lies are going to come out. More leaked documents are going to come out. They're going to be just as fake as the ones that came out before, because they don't need to make good fakes. They've already seen that they can just blatantly lie and they get rewarded for it. So there's no reason for them to put any more effort into this. So there are going to be more lies. There are going to be more misinformation. When the actual legitimate OGL finally comes out, I will probably make a video on that, because that will be something real. And it will come from Wizards of the Coast. It won't come from some leak. So up until that point, this is the last time I'm talking about this, because I've said my piece. I have been right twice now. And anyone that still doesn't believe that I know what I'm talking about is never going to be convinced, no matter what. So, yeah. Otherwise, thanks to anyone that actually watches through the end. I know that I ramble and say dumb stuff. It's how my brain works. I'd love to get back to where I could do scripted content. It just doesn't work for me. My brain won't let me do it. But it's all for me today. See you guys next time. All right. Bye-bye.